Last year, SIM swap fraud surged 1,055% in the UK.
If you're in the US, it's even worse than this.
SIM swap attacks are exploding and your crypto and identity are at risk. Today's guest is Mark Kreitzman, cybersecurity veteran and Chief Cyber Evangelist at Efani. We're going to break down how these attacks happen, who's most at risk, and what steps can you take right now to protect yourself. Watch the episode first, and if you decide Efani is right for you, use the affiliate link in the description for $99 off. Plus, you'll be supporting our network spotlight community, helping crypto founders. Let's dive in. I saw some statistic from CyFast. They reported that last year, SIM swap fraud surged 1,055% in the UK. And there's nearly 3,000 cases. Why should this alarming spike make our audience sit up?
Yeah, well, it's for one reason, like if you're in the US, it's even worse than this. So this has been spiking in the UK, and definitely it's an issue there. And there's people that are in the US SIM swapping people in the UK, and there's people in the UK SIM swapping people in the US. So if you're a crypto investor, then you have to be very concerned about somebody that is going to steal your mobile account away and use that to reset your applications and even your authenticator app if they're a professional and they have a little bit of time. So if you want to hold on to your crypto, your investments, your proprietary data, then you do not want to have your mobile account stolen away. And you know, I'm a victim myself, and it's one of the reasons why Efani's here.
Before we jump into Efani and your background, let's talk about SIM swapping. For those that may not be familiar, what exactly does that entail?
Yeah, so most people know what a legal SIM swap is, maybe not by name, but if you have an iPhone, say 11 today, and you go into your phone store and you get an iPhone 16. So when you go through that process, you're going to say, okay, go ahead and move my mobile number from my iPhone 11 over to my new iPhone 16. And that is what a legal SIM swap is. So it's SIM porting or SIM swapping. And basically they're just getting the carrier, like whether it's AT&T, Verizon, British Telecom, wherever you are in the world, they're getting your carrier to point the mobile service, your account, away from the SIM or eSIM in your phone to the SIM or eSIM in your new phone. Now, when it becomes illegal is when somebody moves your mobile account from your iPhone 11 over to their phone. And they could be your next door neighbor. They could live above you, below you. They could be 5,000 miles away from you. But what they're doing is they're using several methods in order to get your carrier to move your mobile account from your phone to point over to their phone. And that's, as soon as that happens, then it's very dangerous.
How easy is it to steal somebody's phone?
So it was Princeton that did a study a couple of years ago, and they were successful 79.8% of the time out of the number of people. So they set up a number of accounts, and they set a time limit to it. And within this time limit, they were able to SIM swap. And the reason it's 79.7 is because they SIM swapped 39 of 50 lines. And on the lines that they were not able to SIM swap, they got things like the service start date, birthday information, name, things out of the carrier. So their percentage would have actually been more than 80% had they had more time to do it. So there's a couple different methods that they use. So one would be just simply bribing a phone store employee, or you're bribing customer support at a carrier. And it was, Coinbase announced like 30 days ago, somewhere around there, about how their customer support had been paid basically to give out customer service customer information, and that resulted in a number of thefts. Now they made it sound like it's only been happening for a month or 2 months or 3 months, but I'm pretty sure it's been happening probably for 2 or 3 years because I talked to a lot of victims before they move over. But you can simply bribe people. You get a bit insider, so there's gangs. So there might be like a group where it's like one or two people on the outside, but they've got buddies on the inside that help them gather information. So when the hackers on the outside do the verification, it's like super clean. You're not actually impersonating somebody. I mean, you are in a sense, but you know the information. You don't even have to trick them. And then of course the social engineering where you call up and And they get pretty crafty about it, so they're doing it now in steps. So like if I wanted to call your carrier, and I could just simply say like, hey, I just want to change the PIN on my account, or I want to change the address on the account. And so the alert level is going to be down. It's like, okay, this person just wants to change something. And there's no penalty for me attempting to do this, because if they ask me a question and say, well, sorry, but we can't verify you. They normally don't say that, and they normally say like, oh, sorry, but if you don't have your PIN, we can't. It's like, but I'll verify you another way. So what's your address? Who's the last person you called? Things like that. And so if I can just simply convince them to make a change in your account one day, and then I come back a couple days later, I make another change, and then a week later I call in, and now I'm verifying on the real information. And so there's all kinds of tricks they can do. So, I could call your mobile number, and then when I call the carrier to impersonate you, if they were to ask me what's the last number that called you, well, I'm the one that called you, so I know the number. Or I could do a phishing attack to try and get you to respond to a text, and therefore that would be like in the records, and so there's all kinds of tricks that they use, but. How easy it is. The problem is that there's no penalty for me to go into a store, try and get verified as you. If I don't qualify, then I learn, and then I drive a couple miles to the next store and I try it again, and I learn, and I can just keep doing that. It's really a matter of like, are you a target? Is somebody determined to get you? First thing that would happen if it's a SIM swap is your mobile account goes dead. So you've got a cell phone, and it'll have an error that says no network detected. And most people are going to think, like I did when I was a victim back in 2018, was, oh, did I forget to pay my bill, or maybe my credit card, was out of date or something. And so the problem is when you get SIM swapped, you can't even call your carrier, and you have to now go and get another phone, and that makes it harder to then get verified, because now they think you're the hacker, you're not calling in on your own line. Now, when I got hit in the middle of the desert in Arizona, in between Phoenix and Tucson. And anyone that's been out in the middle of that area knows, like, there's no Walmarts out there. There's no gas stations. Like, you got to just drive another 20, 30 minutes. And so I was by myself. My cell phone didn't work. I couldn't even call the carrier. And I was just hoping at that time, like, I hope they didn't SIM swap me. I hope it is like a credit card on file, just didn't auto pay or something, but unfortunately it was the worst case scenario. So the first thing would be is that your mobile account goes dead, and then you'd have to call your carrier, and then you just got to hope that when you get your mobile service back that they didn't have enough time to access any of your accounts.
So why isn't T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, why aren't they catching on to this trend?
Yeah, so they have, and the FCC's come down hard on them, and had put out some new laws for protection of SIM swaps in the last year. The problem is that there's a couple problems with the carrier industry, and that is that they don't own all their stores, for one. So there's a lot of independent retailers, a lot of wholesalers out there. There's people out there that own like 3 stores, 10 stores, 100 stores, more. I think there's probably people that own like 1,000+ stores, and so do they qualify their employees as well as like an AT&T owned store, T-Mobile store? So you've got too much people with too much power. Then and then you have call centers that are overseas, and how are they being monitored? If they have a recording device or a camera or something on their somewhere hidden where it's recording the screen as people call in and get verified. Of course, you have like the Coinbase issue where people are paying their customer support reps. So the problem is that for them to close this down, they would become almost nonprofit, because they would have to have so much manpower and monitoring live. And the other problem with the industry is that, and it's not every country, but the U.S. has this problem, the U.K. and many other countries, where for you to call up your own carrier, there are some steps to get verified, and you can get through those. Now, the way that this industry is designed is that all the carriers, resellers, stores, whether they're independent or owned by the carrier, we all have portals that can access and pull somebody from T-Mobile to Efani, from AT&T to Efani, Mint Mobile to Efani, Google Fi. We can pull that over, and we only need really a couple pieces of information. So if somebody were to get a hold of your account number, your mobile number, and then let's say they borrowed your phone, and this is one of the reasons why you want to let people borrow your phone. But I borrow your phone and I text pound, 4 digits pound, and it gives me a temporary transfer pin. Now you thought that I was calling my mom or I was calling an Uber or cab or something, but I pretended, and then I delete that text exchange, hand you your phone back, and now with a couple bits of information, I can go into any store and say, yeah, I want to switch my carrier over to Mint Mobile. And with a couple bits of information, they can now move your account over. So there's actually less verification when somebody's trying to, SIM swap you that way. And so that's one of the major differences with the Efani. So the stores are actually one of the big gaps. They're one of the biggest gaps in the mobile industry.
You mentioned that in 2018 you were SIM swap. Walk me through that experience. I mean, what was your first reaction, and then how did you go about trying to find a solution, which ultimately led you to starting Efani?
Yeah, so in 2018 I was working on my own startup, and I was into crypto, and I was working on mobile apps that had to deal with crypto, and like I said, I was actually driving to visit my father, and all of a sudden my mobile account disappeared. And I've been building cybersecurity companies directly for founders for really since 2001. So it's kind of I was like, oh my God, I have all this experience. And then I got SIM swapped, and I thought I had everything set up with the carrier. I had my profile set up so that you had to be in a store physically. I would have to be there with my driver's license and my passport. And so I figured there's no way that somebody's gonna be able to SIM swap me. And so my mobile account goes out. Well, I had a choice. Do I drive to like a Walmart or gas station and ask to borrow a phone? And the closest one was like 25, 30 minutes. So instead I drove the 50 minutes somewhere around there to get to my father's home. And then when I pulled up to the driveway, the Wi-Fi kicks in and 6 password resets go right at my phone. And that's when I knew that I had been SIM swapped. I got issues, and my dad, opens the door, wants to hug me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I got an emergency. I called in, and I called the carrier. Now they think that I'm the hacker because I'm trying to tell them like I didn't call, and they're like, no, the record shows. And the odd thing is that in the middle of the conversation, I'm like, I called you using my cell number. So how is that possible? Does 611 work if I don't have an active cell service to my phone? And the guy's like, oh, that's a good question. So he looks at the record and he says, oh, you know what? After 61 minutes, they ported your number back to your phone. And that really freaked me out. So now I'm looking at what got access. So they got into a Coinbase account. They got into a cloud account. They got into my web hosting account. They got into an email account and 2 other accounts. Luckily, 2 of them were just empty. I had another crypto account that was empty, and another cloud account that I had just opened up. So it was 4 of those. And it was painful. So at that time, I had 2 Bitcoin in my account. So, that was somewhere, I think, around 2,500 to 3,500, per Bitcoin at that time. And so now I have to wake up every day and do the math on that. Like, it'd be nice to have, those today. And so at the time it was like, how hard am I going to fight this? And am I going to spend all this money to get this back? I had no idea Bitcoin was going to go to 100K plus. The worst part about it though, is that the fact that they had ported my number back then made me, every time I went to bed, I couldn't sleep. So I would wake up at 3 a.m. I would look at my phone and be like, oh, do I have LTE? So for about 60 days, I did not use Wi-Fi because I thought that might mask the problem. I could wake up and I've got notifications. I get email, making breakfast, and then, try and call somebody and it doesn't work. And then, and so I didn't sleep. If I woke up at 3, I'd look at my phone. If I woke up at 6 and then 8, I'm looking at my phone. And so during that time, I started to look around. Like I thought somebody had solved this, and I wasn't looking to do anything else. And I found somebody on LinkedIn who's our CEO and the guy who had founded it. And it turns out that he was building a Bitcoin ATM network with a couple other guys, and they had built one of the biggest ones that existed. And so he was into Bitcoin. And so then we kind of hit it off, and then I called him a week later, and then after we talked a couple times, I said, I build cybersecurity companies. That's what I want to do. So let's see if this works. I want to help you take it, to market. And it was just really a one-man show. He had actually created this solution to protect himself because he was a big target. So he was going to the Bitcoin Miami conference when it was just the Bitcoin Miami meeting, right? It was just a bunch of Bitcoin people, it was like tens of people. It was, 35, 50 people. And so we happened to be connected into that crowd. And so we kind of hit it off, and it's like, well, let's trial it. So, for, I don't know, 8 or 9 months, there was no pay. We were just doing 7x24, two of us. And well, we were gaining customers because we knew people in the crypto space. And then the ledger hack hit at some point during that process. And then all of those people on the ledger list started getting hacked, and they started getting SIM swapped. And that's really when we started to have that hockey stick growth and had to hire people. And we're like, okay, we got a business here. And we're now 6 years old under the Efani brand. And it's been tough, but we've been profitable for more than half of that, if not, 4 years. And we're still growing. So all the data breaches, all the hacks. I mean, this latest one last week where they announced 16 billion passwords being released. I don't know if you've seen that one, but those things that's scary. And those will eventually turn into mobile SIM swaps.
You're talking about the one with, I want to say Apple or Google. It's a lot of like really
Apple,
big
Google,
high-tech
Facebook.
names.
It looks like there was maybe a couple issues that they had found, like with Apache server, and so to steal that many passwords, and that means if they got the passwords, they got logins and all the other data that comes along with it. So a lot of people use the same email as logins. They use the same PIN number. Of course, their personal information like addresses and things like that. Same email, same mobile number, and so. If they start calling the carriers and start using that, then, they're halfway home in terms of knowing about somebody to SIM swap them. And what they don't have, they could target somebody and search on data brokers and the dark web, or target somebody if they're big enough with malware, or phishing attacks to gather even more information.
I'm hearing everything that you're saying, and it spooks me, I'll be honest. How do you block SIM swap attempts behind the scenes?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that we do. So you can buy AT&T directly, or you could buy AT&T through Efani as an example. And when you buy AT&T through Efani, there's a couple differences. So one is that when we port your number over and you're on Efani, we're unplugging you from what I call this mobile API matrix. So we're unplugging you. So now somebody cannot move your account out to another carrier just by simply having information on you, whether it's a temporary transfer PIN or something like that. They're not going to be able to get it from us. And then the second thing we do is that all the verification's done manually. So we're not using like AI to detect anything. It's all manual. And we're doing some of the, we can't publish. We don't want to publish like all the things that we're doing. But some of them are kind of the obvious things, like what email do we have for you on file? Okay, I just sent you an email. So read to me what it says, or respond back to it and state this. Like, we want to make sure that somebody has control of their email. Like, what's your payment information? What's your payment method? And then, okay, we just sent you this credit. And so you have to verify that. And so we have 11 steps, and somebody can actually add a 12th custom step. So if you want to add a passphrase or the name of your first dog, whatever you want to do, then you can do that. And if you want to do a risky transaction like a port out, then we're going to go through the 11 steps plus that custom step. and then there's a 2-week cooling off period, and this is just a period that's the last resort protection layer, which is that, like, if you go fishing in northern Canada where there's no cell phone, like, you want to make sure when you get back to cell coverage, you still have it, right? So that's like that last line of defense. So somebody would have to try and impersonate you for 2 weeks, and it's going to include that texts. We're going to call that person and make sure that somebody has control over that. And so it's all manual. So we're doing things that any of the carriers, any of the resellers, they're not going to do because it's just too costly. And the reason we can do that is because if we market properly and we get people who actually need us and they buy us for the right reason, our churn rate is less than 2%. So in the mobile industry, like, if you have less than 25%, like, you're winning, right? Because people just move around, like, there's phone deals or they move for whatever reason. And we, even though we don't do contracts, our churn rate, and that 2% includes people moving to Asia or somebody losing their job or something, and they just want to save money. It includes all of that. And so what we've done is on the service side of things is we've thrown some things in, and it makes it more attractive. So you get the SIM swap security. There's some privacy in the sense that we don't give your personal information to the carrier. So phone store employees, customer support reps can't look up and get your address and your date of birth, your social security, like, that's sitting there in your account. A lot of people don't realize that the carriers basically have a credit account on you. And so we're not collecting that information. And so you get the privacy, but we're backing it up with the $5 million insurance policy. So the most simple way to describe our business is we provide an excellent mobile service with excellent customer support, some free international type roaming features, the SIM swap security, and that $5 million insurance plan. And so if people are buying us for the right reason, then they just don't leave us.
How much of the user experience do you have to sacrifice in order to get this type of protection?
So that's the beauty of it, is that there is no sacrifice. Some people will think, like, oh, your tech's great, I love your tech, but what we've actually done is we've stripped out all the tech. And so we don't provide, like, free Netflix, free Hulu, or Disney, or any of that. That can be data profiling, data stealing, in the sense of they can collect your data and sell your data. So we're not doing any of that. And it's almost like the end of Independence Day. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but where the only
Great
plane
movie
that was able to drive up and carry the bomb up, it was because it was a combustion engine and not, had any electronics or anything. That's kind of like we've stripped everything out. Like, people think that we have, like, some data center with all these servers and everything, but we've stripped out everything that we possibly could. And then it's just manual effort at that point. So the only information we keep is verification information and payment information, and that's kept separately in different silos. Even the way that our customer support and operations is designed is that it's all need to know. And so our tier 1 support reps that answer the phone most of the times, for example, is they don't have access or power to do anything that's risky. And so we're controlling who can see the data, who has access to it, and then the power to actually, like, port somebody out. There's only, I don't want to say how many people, but let's just say it's very limited on the entire planet of who can approve, and it takes multiple people to approve. And so it's not about technology. It really is about just the human intervention of us verifying customers and making sure that we're never going to give away somebody's mobile number or call records or SMS records. Like, we don't even care. We don't even collect that information. Like, if somebody wants it, they have to make a formal request. We then have to request from the carrier. The carrier will deliver it back from us. Of course, it won't be attached with, like, all your private information, but then the less information we keep, then it's better for the customers.
And you're kind of touching on my next question, which is around cybersecurity. I also work in cybersecurity, the B2B side of things. Have you gone through any steps to ensure that it's secure? You mentioned that it's very simple, but does that equate to security?
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 penetration tests done from outsiders, and so we have official penetration type testing, and one of those is from one of our Fortune 120 customers who require it in their contract. So we pay to have our own done. They, in their contract, have the choice to pick whoever they want to have the penetration done to us, and so I think that's necessary. And then we also have a number of penetration customers, like actual professionals, and so they'll attempt to, you know, phish or SIM swap or try and get information out of us, and then they'll call up later on and say, I want to congratulate you guys, thanks a lot, you're keeping, you know, me secure. So we have penetration testing done on our infrastructure and servers, and and also the social engineering part of it. And we'll continue to do that. If anything, we'll get tighter on that. We live a very, very paranoid life 24/7. And with AI, it's, you know, we play around with a lot of AI tools, and we want to know what's out there, what's possible. We already have somebody that switched to us from a hedge fund. Guy ran a crypto hedge fund. He got SIM swapped and lost somewhere around like $10 million. And it's because, and he was part of like this sort of executive protection type security at one of the carriers, but they got through, one of the steps was voice recognition. And so he said that it was, you know, AI voice recognition got past that step. And so they first tried to blame it on him, saying that, oh no, you did the voice recognition. You know, we have the recordings, and it's like, well, no, that's not me. That's not me. And, you know, and AI is getting very good. I mean, you and I we have a number of videos on the internet, and all, you know, the, you know, scraping tool can pick up 20 minutes of our voice on the internet and then go recreate it. And it's getting really good. So we have to be very paranoid about what we do. And even having outsiders, you know, come and look at like our processes and our steps and verify it's, at some point you have to think like, well, like how far do we want anyone to even to be able to look at what it is that we're doing? But I think because myself and the CEO are both SIM swap victims, and so that makes us, because I'm sure he does, but I have like PTSD over it. And even though I'm using Efani and I know that I'm secure, I still am, I'm still worried about, you know, just any hack, any kind of hack, not just SIM swaps, but any of them.
The thing about cybersecurity and security in general is it usually is secondary until you become victim, and then it becomes not so much of an afterthought. So it's very eye-opening to hear all the different ways that somebody can, you know, has access to all this information. Mark, if listeners walk away with one actionable takeaway about mobile security today, what should it be?
I would say that, you know, I'm biased, you know, towards Efani, but I would say that you need to be very careful about what you click on. And even like when I see like anything suspicious, right, somebody sends me even something like in my work email address and they're an outside party, most of the time I'm actually verifying with them on the side, like, did you send this to me? Now, at some point, you know, people don't have time to do that, but anything you click on can execute code. You know, if you get a text message and it's like you have a Amazon package, and if you don't respond in the next 4 hours, it's going to be shipped back. And you know, so they'll say anything to get you to click on it, but that can execute lines of code and grab like what kind of phone you have, you know, that it's an iPhone 12, that this is the IMSI number, this is your mobile number, this is the carrier you use. And of course they can get all kinds of information, you know, off of just internet searches. And we actually built a tool if anyone wants to see how easy it is to quickly get information on you. If you go to efani.com/number scan, you put your mobile number in there, you'll do an SMS verification, just because we don't want to deliver any, even if it's just sample data, but we don't want to deliver even sample data to somebody. So you do the SMS verification, and it's going to take your mobile number and see if you've been any data breaches. And so I have multiple numbers, but my main number has been a 9. And I don't control this, right? It's like a hospital system. It's Facebook. It's LinkedIn. And some of them are breaches. Some of them are hacks. Some of them are just scraping information from, big social media sites. And so that tool will tell you that, some base, really quick. It's meant to be just a snapshot because we don't want to freak people out, but people would be surprised. Like, your entire life is attached to your mobile number. It's more important than your social security number at this point. And yet when you meet people, you don't hand them your social security number, but you're like, oh, here's my mobile number. And some people publish it, make it public. So you got to be careful about what information, you publish. And I like poison pills. Like, if I'm going to use social media, for example, I will not use my full name. And then if I'm going to put in a birthday, I don't put my own birth date in there. I put in one that's, a week off or, close enough that if somebody were to say happy birthday, it's like the wrong day. When I see a birthday thing pop up, like on social media, I sort of hesitate. Like, do I want to like participate in, telling people this is really their birthday? And so you just have to be careful about what you're posting online, what you click on. And that's probably number one, but also be aware of, people, one of the big mistakes is that they'll set up a phone and on an account, like under a Gmail account or an iCloud account, and then they'll use that same email and set up their Coinbase, use that for their bank account, their Wi-Fi, and then use that to register on websites and communicate with people. And you got to think about that. You're actually sending people your login to a lot of your accounts if you're doing that. And the main way, the first thing somebody's going to attempt if they want to hack you is just go put your email in and then say forgot password and see what kind of reaction you get. Because if I'm a hacker and it says enter the SMS that we just sent you, now I know, okay, I need to mobile SIM swap you. Or if it says enter the authentication code, or it might say YubiKey, and so the hacker's going to know, okay, should I even bother with this person? Or if they're a big enough target and they're using an authenticator app, okay, I got to be prepared. Are they using Apple? Are they using Android? What's the typical authenticator apps they might be using? But if I get in your email and I can see like email notifications, I'll search for like Dua or Google Authenticator app and try and see if I see emails in there. And now I know that I need to try and reset that. And so you got to be careful about what information you're making public and just don't set up all your logins like bowling pins. And, for me, I have an email that I set up because I have both. I have 4 different phones. And so each one of them has a different email ID. And I don't use those 4 emails for anything else on the planet. That's the only thing. I don't even open them at that point unless it's like absolutely necessary.
I think for anybody watching this conversation was very eye-opening. You may have heard of SIM swap, but can't really imagine it happening to you. But clearly, it can happen to just about anybody. Mark, I'm going to include some links in the description so that way people can get access to your service. Where can they follow you along?
The Efani YouTube channel. We've got all kinds of like tips and recommendation videos and, warnings about different methods that people use to hack you. And so that's the best place.
Yeah, and I checked it out. You bring on other cybersecurity guests. It's very educational and something that I think everybody should check out for sure. So I'll include that link in the description as well. Any parting thoughts for the audience, Mark?
Yeah, well, if anyone's into crypto, then you absolutely, and if you're on this edge of, am I going to use a cold wallet, hardware wallet, you got to do it. And there's solutions out there that are, very, very easy. And so it's time for people to make that move, is to get their crypto off of online exchanges.
Thanks so much for your time today. This was a real pleasure.
Appreciate you having me come on and helping build awareness around this problem, because a lot of people, they don't know. They think their physical phone has to be stolen, and it has nothing to do with your phone. You can invest thousands and thousands of dollars on the security of your device, but if your mobile account's stolen away, whatever you've done on your physical phone is completely obsolete. It's not even in the equation. So, but I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
If you found this helpful and want to take the next step, check out the Efani link below. Using it helps support the channel and our community. All resources are in the description. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there.